All right, so for anybody that knows anything about extraterrestrials, aliens, creatures from outer space, we've heard what they've looked like since Roswell, 1947, Betty and Barney Hill, Travis Walton, Fire in the Sky. So many people have described these creatures in their own in different encounters, right? And there was an encounter in 1994 that happened in Zimbabwe. A lot of people have heard of this alien extraterrestrial encounter. And it happened in Zimbabwe to children at school. And the kids gave eyewitness reports, and they described what this creature they saw, what it looked like. And for the most part, they all said the same thing. Like, for the most part, they all described the same type of creature. And so for anybody that's been following, what's going on with extraterrestrials and UFOs right now, I think it's interesting to go back to this story in 1994 that happened to these kids because, one, it's kids that recall seeing this thing, and it happened at school. So there's a real mystery behind the whole thing because it's involving kids at school. Like, you think dropping your kids off at school, they're in a safe place, right? You don't think they're all going to come home talking about creatures that they saw at school. So today we're going to go back to 1994 and kind of figure out what these kids saw. So 1994, Zimbabwe. It was a school where most of the kids that attended the school were farmland kids that lived on wealthy pieces of land, and that's the school, the Ariel School, is where they attended. And so one day at recess, a bunch of kids came running into like the snack bar saying there's black creatures off into the field. And they're screaming. A bunch of kids are all screaming. And so during that day, there was like a staff meeting at school. So there was only one adult out like side at recess with the kids, and basically that person was running the snack bar. So a bunch of kids ran into the snack bar screaming, going nuts. And so this caused all this commotion because all these kids are saying they saw this creature. So now, the rest of the teachers come out of their meeting and whatnot, and they're like, what's going on? Why are there like 10 kids going freaking nuts? And so they pulled the kids to the side, and the school principal, or whoever was like whatever they call it in Zimbabwe, the principal pulled the kids off one-on-one and said, draw me what you saw. And again, for the most part, all the kids drew the same thing. They all drew this craft of like what we think of as a UFO. The kids drew it, and then they drew these small black beings. And they said they saw these black beings with almond-shaped eyes communicating with them. And I always thought this was weird because you have these kids saying that the aliens were like talking to their minds. Like, it was very strange, and it's exactly what we think of when we think of extraterrestrials communicating with humans, is telepathically, right? Is like that's how we always thought that these aliens would communicate with humans. And these children said that when they looked into the aliens' eyes, the aliens were telling them to take care of the planet, be careful with technology, and they were ingraining these visions in their head of like the ocean being like covered in plastic and the trees all being gone in deserts, and like they were like ingraining all these visions into these kids' heads. So when the kids told the teachers what the aliens or whatever these creatures saw, said to them or whatnot, they said, they were telling us to take care of the planet. They were showing us showing me these pictures, these visual pictures of the world being destroyed and how important it is to take care of it. And so now, like, the teachers really don't know what to think because the principal is looking at these pictures, and it's like these kids are they're one, going nuts, right? Like, the kids are absolutely going nuts. And two, there's all these pictures that they drew that all look the same. So it really had the adults at the school really weirded out by the whole thing. So at the same time, news started to get around because the parents were like, what happened to my kid? Like, he's coming home from school and he can't sleep. Some of the kids didn't go back to school for about a week. So different reporters started to pick up the story. And so one of the main people that came to Zimbabwe was John Mack. And John Mack was like a famous doctor at the time, tackling a lot of these UFO encounter abduction stories. Like a lot of the people that had these encounters in the past met with John Mack. And John Mack had a lot of interest in their stories. And the reason why John Mack was so popular is because he came from Harvard. And Harvard directly were like, hey, like, you know, you're a part of our Harvard lineage and you're working here. You can't be talking about extraterrestrials. Like, this is no good. Like, you can't. So Harvard was really against John Mack talking about and doing the type of research he was doing. And John Mack believed so much in these stories and these encounters and these people, eyewitness accounts, that like he was like, whatever, like I'm doing this. Like, I don't care about whatever the Harvard people think is important. I'm doing the extraterrestrial stuff. And it was really controversial at the time, and because he went against the grain. He went against, like, you know, the big Ivy League school. And so John met with a lot of these kids, and he believed firsthand that something happened. And at the time, the parents were also bringing, you know, the kids back to the spots, being like, show me where it was. And it was just a really strange time for all the families involved in this. And when we listened to what the kids were saying that it looked like I find them, what's most interesting about the whole entire thing is these children sitting there on camera talking about what they saw. And so one thing that stayed consistent is that they had like big eyes, like the Greys. And the other thing that stayed consistent is that they were wearing these black suits. I mean, the black suits, that's Betty and Barney Hill said that. Betty and Barney Hill said the black eyes. Like, people that had the big extraterrestrial encounters in America all said tiny black suits, almond-shaped eyes. And these kids said the same thing. There was only one thing that threw me off, is that this little blonde girl said they had black hair.
I saw the little black men. They had longish hair, and it was all black, and they had big black eyes. That's all I saw. I saw a glimpse. They kind of turned around and stared, and then went back into a kind of like ship. There was like sort of one big one with quite a few little ones all scattered around.
But the hair it looked more like our hair. It wasn't curly. That thing almost looked like a hippie.
They had black hair. Okay, so that's like, okay, black hair. So then you start to look at, they said, two kids said it. They said they had hair. So, you know, with the Greys, there is no hair, right? Like, so with the typical Greys, that sounds like what they're describing is the typical Greys is, you know, 4 foot tall, black suits, almond-shaped eyes. Then you got these couple kids saying that no, they had like hippie hair. Like, they said like they had like straight hippie hair, no curls. So when you think of that, you think of like the Nordic, right? Where they have the blonde hair. But the one little girl said no, it was black hair though. So that makes you start to think that maybe they were demons. I mean, and that's crazy, because like now, let's just say that those beings that did visit the school were demons, and why would they say take care of the earth, right? Like, I'm trying to look at all the UFO incidents in the past of people describing these creatures, and I haven't found anybody saying almond-shaped eyes, black suits with black hair. I don't know. I haven't found anything with black, long, straight hair. I mean, and that's why I'm putting this out there to the world, because we'll see. Have you guys know any incidents out there where these people describe, you know, the Greys, but with black hair? I haven't. And to me, that sounds like demons. But it sounded like the overall message that these creatures were portraying was like a good message. So you wouldn't think then it would be a demon. It would be like, you know, a good alien from the future or whatever coming back and telling you like this is what could happen if you don't take care of the planet. So I don't know, guys. Like the Ariel School incident is forever one of the most popular UFO encounters because like there's still so many kids to this day all grown up where it's like, yeah, like something happened to me. Like when all those people do the reunions and stuff, they're all still affected by it. Like none of them are like, yeah, we got him with that one. Remember that? All of them are like, I don't know what happened that day. Like, I don't know. Do you remember? Do you still think about it? Do you have any nightmares? Right? So it's like the adults are affected and just everything when it happened at the time led up that something did happen at the school. Right? These kids aren't all actors. Like, you can watch the actual videotapes of these kids being interviewed after it happened. And, I mean, you're talking like Macaulay Culkin child actor stars if these kids were actors. Like, seriously. Like, they would be, like, ready to go for Hollywood, 100%. Right? Put them in the next movie, 100%. But the thing is that they weren't actors. So it makes the whole thing very strange. And for me personally, I find the aliens they're describing to be the weirdest. Like, if it was just, you know, 4 foot tall, black suits, almond eyes, the grays, we'd be like, all right, more people saw the grays. But when you got these kids saying, no, long black hair, sounds like you guys saw a bunch of demons. But they were telling you a good message. It's very confusing. So I want to know what you guys think. Have you heard of any other extraterrestrial encounters out there where people have seen these beings with hair? Let me know.